Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Welcome to the Positivity Podcast on Anfield Index. My name is Matt McElroy, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion. I'm joined by Lubo Markov and Paul Jenkins. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'll get started.
Good. Are you enjoying your Sunday?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I'm enjoying my time in Berlin today. I'm going to be here for a week before making a trip to Liverpool for the Wolves game. So you could say I have definitely pot committed, to use a poker analogy for this quadruple. I decided that I have to be at Anfield to see the Reds lift the Premier League title. So I'm going.
Yeah, you are all in.
That's one way to be positive about the whole thing.
That's right.
Getting yourself booked in for that final game to see the trophy being lifted. I'm doing well. It's a nice sunny evening here in Northern Ireland, so I have kind of been chilling today. So yeah, doing well here.
Fantastic.
And you,
what
Matt?
About you, Matt?
Yeah, doing well. It's yet another cold and rainy day here in Seattle, but that's just how we do it, and it's going to be great either way. So before we get too far into our show, so I just want to mention that we are recording live today on Anfield Index Discord. If you are listening live and have questions, go ahead and enter them into the chat. If you're not on Anfield Index Discord, be sure to sign up and join us there. So to get us started, we have two opening questions today. So our first one is from friend of the show, Steven. So other than Jurgen Klopp, who from this era is most likely to get a statue outside Anfield? Paul, do you want to get us started with that one?
Yeah. So kind of thinking about this, ultimately, I guess it's player related, and you're kind of going, we haven't done this before. We've ever put a player outside the stadium, so you're kind of going, right, well, the obvious choice, and while it will be controversial, is probably Jordan Henderson, just because team captain, won all 6 of the major trophies, lifted them as team captain. You kind of would go. It's hard to look past the captain of all those trophy winning teams and not have him as if you were putting another statue beside Jurgen Klopp outside of Anfield, you would assume it would be Jordan Henderson. So that's who I would say.
Yeah. So when I was thinking about this question, I could only come up with 3 possible answers, and one was Jordan Henderson, the other one's Mohamed Salah, and then the other one is Virgil van Dijk. So those are the only 3 that I think are a possibility, and I don't know which one would be more likely. I think that you might be right that Jordan Henderson could be the one, just because he is the captain, he's the guy that's lifted all the trophies. So that's sort of where I landed as well. Lubo?
So it'll really depend. I would say if Steven Gerrard can win the Premier League title for Liverpool this Sunday, I think with that on top of his career at Liverpool, he might make a good argument for that, right? But I was actually trying to figure out. I don't know if there are any statues of players, just former players outside of Anfield. I don't remember.
No.
I think it's really rare.
Right. I've only been there once, and I only remember the one. Is it Shankly? Shankly has the
Paisley.
yeah. Yeah, Shankly and Paisley.
and
Yeah,
Paisley Gates.
yeah. I think it's tough. I mean, from the current players, you really, I think Jordan Henderson, is assuming that he plays until the end of his contract, and especially if Liverpool continue to win titles, to where I mean, he's already one of only, I think, three captains to lift the certain types of trophies in his career, right? I think Hughes, and I forget who the other one is. So from that perspective, he's been quite decorated, and hopefully the next few years mean a lot more trophies. But I think maybe from the rest of the current players, if Mo Salah maybe extends and he really finishes his career at Liverpool, breaking all sorts of records, potentially even catching Rushy, that would be another possibility. But I would say everybody on the current team would need to do a lot more
Right.
to deserve that title. And maybe in the thinking about the future, maybe Gerrard wins the title for us this Sunday. Maybe he does become a manager after Klopp retires, or even though I'm hoping that Klopp stays even beyond his recent extension, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit later. Maybe Gerrard ends up becoming a manager in the future and then adds trophies as a manager. Maybe he would make a case, but I think it is very difficult from just the current squad to pick one player and really say absolutely that is someone who will have a based on the body of evidence to this point, will have a statue one day.
It's probably better to not have statues, judging by how when they go up and what they look like compared to what the player actually looks like, it can be quite fraught.
It's actually a funny story today. This reminded me. We were walking in Unten den Linden, which is like one of the main strips that connects basically like the Brandenburg Gates to the old like the very old historic part of Berlin, and that's the street where all the parades are happening, and it's like it's really is this street in Berlin, right? And they're sure enough they have a Madame Tussauds there, and I was looking, and we're walking by, and I was looking at the statue that was by the front entrance. I was like, who the hell is that? And I was just staring for about a minute, and then I realized it's Vin Diesel, but they had done such a terrible job on him. That's like just poor guy. I mean, they just butchered him. So yeah, I agree with you. It's better not to have statues of
Yeah,
players that just look terrible.
yeah, and I don't know if either of you saw this, but like City put up a statue that was supposed to be Sergio Aguero, and it looks like Tony Kroos.
It is Tony Cruz now.
That's what I thought. I don't know. Like they claimed it was Sergio Aguero, but
I saw that.
I don't see it personally.
I laughed at the fact that I think it was Tony Cruz also quote tweeted it with laughing emojis. Did you guys
Yes,
see
or
that?
something like that.
Oh, brilliant! Just on that statue. So actually, Bob Paisley is his statue is him carrying Emlyn Hughes. So that is as close as we get to a player statue outside of Anfield.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, no,
So
I don't think we need player statues. I mean, speaking
No.
of commemorating, we have the Sir Kenny stand, and I think he deserves it for everything he's done for the club as a player, as a coach. I do hope that one day, that Klopp stays for much longer, even beyond his current contract. And I'm hopeful that the new Anfield Road stand will be called the Jurgen Klopp stand one day when it's the right time. I think he'll be fitting for everything he has done and will continue to do for this club. But for statues of players, I think it's very difficult to argue for those.
Right, I agree. So that's a good place to move on to our second opening question, and this one comes from Willology. So he asks, do you have a favorite moment from this season from Ibrahima Konate? Lubo, do you want to get us started on this one?
I do have a favorite moment, and it's during. It has nothing to do with football, with his footballing abilities, which are immense. It was that moment at the game at, I think it was at Old Trafford, where there was a bit of a scrap, and Fred was trying to get into it, and he just seemed tiny, and Ibu was just pushing him away with this look of I don't know, surprise and disdain. And it was just hilarious because it literally, I mean, Ibu is obviously much younger, but he just looked like a giant, a giant of a human being that was just swatting some young child. That was just the look on Ibu's face, and just the whole situation was hilarious. So that probably is actually one of my favorite moments of Ibu at Liverpool.
That United game is sort of the moment for me. It's like he'd only had one league start before that, and that was just sort of the moment he arrived. Just how well he played. That moment you're talking about with Fred. So that definitely that was it for me. So Paul, moments from Ibu Konate.
Yeah, like, do you know what was really, really cool? It was just the unveiling kind of Konate and all his video stuff that he'd done. I thought all that kind of stuff around, around him, and signing for the club. I thought that was like really, really cool and something a bit different and something a bit kind of, I don't know, it was kind of like modern. That sounds really weird, but just that kind of, it's really in touch with like the next generation of Liverpool supporters and football supporters in general, and how he's connecting with that kind of thing. So that's kind of like a favorite outside of football moment that he's been involved in. And then I think just footballing wise, just as like I love his goals. See the way he just powers through, the header against Benfica and then scoring the next week. Just those big, powerful goals. It's hard to get a grasp of like what size he actually is, and then you just see him running in from a corner, and he just fires people out of the way like some kind of NFL linebacker or whatever, just kind of cleaning people out just to get onto it. So I just kind of was like, yeah. Those kind of moments were my favorite moments. I know we have like where he just lifts whoever it was, Fred, in the United game, and just tosses him, just looks at him, and it's just like, man, this man's a giant. But yeah, I was really made up for him getting his goals. I loved them.
Yeah, the goal against Man City in the league in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
it was because he was such a bullet, and that was I think 3 games in a row he had scored,
yeah,
and the first two were just good, getting the header in the corner, more placement, but that one was just an absolute bullet that he just put in the net. That was brilliant. And the other thing I'll just say about Ibu is that I don't understand, anime. I don't understand what he posts, but he's got this great social media game
yep.
where I have no idea. I have no idea what any of his tweets mean, but he just keeps doing them, and it's like, yeah, sure, it's brilliant. I have no idea what it means, but it probably is. If I knew and if I watched anime as much as I did, I'm like, oh my god, I know exactly what he means. I have no clue, but they're still brilliant.
The commitment to the anime thing is fantastic, and each time he posted, I'm like, oh, awesome. What is this? I don't. It's cool.
I think we're kind of showing our age there. We have no clue what this is, but we're like, yeah, that's what the young people are into. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's really great. So
No
with
clue.
that, let's we'll switch back to the results now, and something we might actually know about, or
Get
at
the
least a little
serious
bit.
stuff.
The serious stuff, right? So in recapping the results since we last spoke, Liverpool yesterday won the FA Cup final against Chelsea. Yay! Woohoo! So there was also league wins over Everton, Newcastle, and Aston Villa. There was a draw against Spurs. Then in the Champions League, wins over Villarreal saw Liverpool qualify for the Champions League final. And then off the field, as predicted in episode 1 of this podcast, Jurgen Klopp signed a 2-year contract extension. So let's start with the most recent event, the FA Cup final. And so, Paul, what are your thoughts about what happened yesterday?
It was kind of like watching the game. It was kind of one of frustration, and I know we're the positivity podcast, and you shouldn't be frustrated about things, but it was kind of like, oh man, if we were so good for the first, was it 15, 20 minutes, And I think, Chelsea and Tuchel just weren't, they just didn't know how to handle Diaz and that ball. And I know Henderson gets a lot of kind of flack for that kind of first time ball that he just lobs over. And we talk about it a lot from like the edge of the box where he's lobbing it towards the back post. His first time with no look cross kind of thing. But yesterday, when he was playing that deeper role, that number 6 role, he his ability from midfield just to play that ball from the centre circle just over the back of the Chelsea players for Diaz to run onto. I loved that. I thought that was really, really good. And for me, them first 15, 20 minutes, and I can't remember who it was in the game chat was talking about was it Thiago Silva was sitting too far deep, and then Kovacic nearly went and had a conversation with him and said, right, you need to move forward and kind of press this up because you're playing Diaz on every time. And so I think just, the first 15, 20 minutes of the final yesterday, we were so on top. We needed to score. We didn't score. And then you knew Chelsea, it was just going to be a slog. And while the game was really, really good, I felt it was entertaining to watch. It was at times end to end, and then other times we just had lots of real dominance. I thought Trent had an exceptional game yesterday. It was one of those games where he was just, he was defending really well, but he was moving into midfield incredibly well and giving the balls out to Salah, and then that pass for Diaz in the first half, in that first 15 minutes was just that's out of this world kind of stuff. You talk about
it was insane.
90% of people don't have that vision. 99% of footballers don't have that vision to be able to play that ball. And he just nonchalantly outside of the boot through the lines, and you're just like, oh my goodness, this is insane. And then the nerves kicked in a wee bit for me, and it was just like, oh wow, this is a bit hard going. And we really wish we'd taken those chances early in the match. But at no point in time did I think Chelsea were going to come back and score. They were going to get that goal. But I just feared it going to penalties. And just when we get the penalties, then it's like it's a lottery. It purely is. But I don't know if you've read that or seen that tweet thread about the psychology of how Klopp approached it versus how Tuchel approached it. Klopp knew within 1 minute 30 of everything that was happening, had the conversation taken, had talked to the players one-on-one who were going to take penalties, knew how they were going to approach it, had the players stand closer to the touch to our touchline so they could hear any commands that were being shouted out. The stuff that Alisson was doing, guarding the ball so Mendy couldn't do any of his mind tricks, if you want to call it that. And it just felt like, everything had been really, really well done. And you just knew that we were up for it. And it just kind of felt that once we got there, it's just like a massive relief to win the trophy. Maybe not the fashion that I would have liked to have won it in. It would have been nice to have done it in 90 minutes and then not had to play the extra 30 and then go through penalties. But sure, for the neutral, I'm sure it was a great watch.
Yeah, so when we spoke last on the podcast, Lubo, you sort of predicted that that Liverpool would come out of the gate in the first 15 or 20 minutes and sort of blow Chelsea away, score a couple goals, and then we would be like having a party. So like everything happened but the goals. So
yeah,
I was like, like the Diaz just misses and Mendy makes a great save, and then there's the cross that is like 6 inches over Thiago's boot, and like if either one of those goes in, I think that it probably does go the way that you predicted.
I mean, all the ingredients were there, and I think without going into too much of a tactical discussion, Chelsea definitely were trying to. I think Thiago Silva was following Mane, and so when Mane was dropping deep, and Thiago was following him, and he was opening that part of the pitch, and he was just balls over the top. Henderson and Trent, and Diaz was just running onto them.
Right, it left Diaz and Chalobah, right, one-on-one, and Diaz was just roasting him.
roasting it.
So
And then they adjusted.
until they changed, it was like all Liverpool.
Yeah, and they did adjust, and that's exactly what I was hoping for, that they would identify something that the same way that Liverpool came hot against Man City, the same way that they came hot again, that they would also do the same to Chelsea. They would identify something from the first game that they played in the League Cup, and we had the chance. I mean, as you said, we had that Thiago chance. Then they had the one-on-one that Diaz had to do better. And then the game would have been very different. But even then, we still had chances. Jota had a great chance. I had a Robo off the post. I have no idea how he didn't score from there. So it was a bit of a travesty that it was 0-0 at the end of regulation and extra time. And I actually had extra urgency because I had a flight to catch, and so I had actually just, in my mind, I had to leave immediately when the game was over at 90 minutes. So I was just desperate for it to finish at 90 minutes. And then it went into extra time, and then it went into penalties. And I was just sitting there. I think I'm going to be late for my flight. But luckily, I'm pretty close to the airport, and there was not that much traffic, and I made it without problems. But it was extra tension just because I was sitting there as we're going into penalty and thinking, now just I imagine Liverpool lose on penalty and then I'm late for my flight. That would be just such a double kick in the nuts. But we won, and I caught my flight with enough initial play, and they had a couple of moments that they were dangerous. Alonso had probably the most dangerous situation. Pulisic had a couple of shots that looked better than they really were because they were difficult shots. But on the balance of play, we deserved to win. And to me, if Chelsea would have won on penalties, it would be a travesty. So I'm just really glad that it didn't happen. Plus, I imagine Chelsea fans, especially Tuchel, are just fuming that they drew, all 4 games drew this season, and still Liverpool ended up with the 2 trophies and ahead of them in the table. So whatever it is, especially after all the things that Tuchel said about Klopp and Liverpool during the week before the game, it serves him right. He can go suck a lemon.
Yeah, so I think that it was something like more than 5 hours of gameplay. Liverpool and Chelsea were drawing for that, of the 420 minutes of play. So it's just like, ugh,
crazy.
Like, I could do without that in the next final. Let's just win it in the 90 minutes.
I know. Oh my God, I'm not ready for a Champions League final to go. I mean, listen. As long as we win it, I'll take it anyway, right? Even if it's penalties, right, and penalties goes 27-26 or something just ridiculous like that. I don't know if I'll survive. I might have a heart attack before then. So as long as we win it any way possible, I'll take it. But I'll just take a comfortable win in 90 minutes, please.
Yes, that's what I want. Okay, so. Moving on a little bit from the FA Cup final, let's talk about the Jurgen Klopp contract extension. So, what are you guys looking forward to most from more time with Jurgen? Lubo, do you want to get us started?
Another extension.
Another extension. That's what you want.
Well, no. Listen, I think as you said, we predicted this, or at least we discussed that this might happen. Despite what some people had written in The Athletic, that this was it, and then it would be, what next for Liverpool. We just felt that there was so much positivity this season, and that the way Klopp had been speaking with the extensions and rumors about transfers coming in, and we're not going to spend much time about transfers, that Klopp could sign a new deal. Because why wouldn't he? He's got such a great deal, and he really has everything that he needs to be able to continue to be very successful at Liverpool. So it was great. I think what will be really interesting to see, obviously, what happens with new contracts. Mo and Sadio have 2 players that have been mentioned as players that Klopp wants to see sign new contracts. But beyond that, There's still questions about Bobby, about Naby, and then what happens with new incomings. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he integrates some of the younger players. And it feels this season he has Klopp has very much ridden the old experienced players. I mean, if you look at just the average age and also who is starting, it's Henderson, it's Fabinho, it's Thiago, it's Naby Keita, it's James Milner. Those have been the players that have played, right? And less so on attack because Jota and Diaz have played a lot. But even at center back, it's been Virgil and Joel, despite Ibu coming in. But over the next couple of years, he'll have to integrate more and more of these young players. Otherwise, what is the point, right? If you have a Harvey and a Curtis, and you bring in Fabio, and you have Ibu, and you have some of these other younger players, you have to integrate more of them. And there's rumors of other younger players coming in. So, how Klopp balances that? Still having older players under control for at least 2-3 years, possibly giving new extensions to some of the older players, while at the same time integrating the younger players, giving them enough time where they can really be ready for that to be the core of the next great Liverpool team. It's going to be a really interesting balance, and it doesn't mean all of it will happen next season. But he has time. I think now that's the other beauty, is that he now has time to develop Curtis, to develop Harvey, to develop Fabio, to develop some of these other guys, maybe some kids from the academy like Kate Gordon or Connor Bradley, or if it's not Connor, that kid from Aberdeen who's been linked. I'm really, really curious and really interested to see how Klopp does all of that.
Yeah, I think that's all right, and it'll be interesting to see what happens because Pep Guardiola's contract expires at the end of next season, and what the league looks like after that, and whether or not he extends, is going to have a big influence on sort of what happens with Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool and how everything develops, right? Because right now there's a lot of pressure to be perfect and both teams sort of push each other to new levels. But if there's not that same force out there on a different team, it could be interesting to see just what happens if they're able to just push themselves to near perfection again, or if that was really just two really good teams playing off each other. Paul, your thoughts on the extension period?
Well, first off, I think it's incredibly great news that it has happened, and how good is it that we predicted it on episode 1? Positively podcast boys maybe do know a thing or two when they're suggesting these things. No, that's I'm being facetious there. But no, it's really cool that that he did extend, and with another 4 years minimum, hopefully, of Jurgen Klopp and what he can do. And I think so. The difference, obviously, between Jurgen and Pep has been that Pep effectively inherited a team of world class players, whereas Klopp inherited a team of not so world class players, and he's effectively done build one of his team to work through, and is really pleased, obviously, to win trophies and win the Champions League, win the Premier League, and it's now this next iteration, nearly build number 2, kind of team number 2 of who he's bringing through, and we've already seen the likes of bringing in Diaz there. If Giamini comes in, that has been rumoured in the summer, and we've got Ibu and Joe Gomez is in there, and if some of the young players starting to come through, we see Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Kyle Gordon, and Carvalho. Just how all this is going to come together, and how he's going to progress this team. We've always talked as supporters about kind of well, we've got an incredible team now, but the mark of a good manager, you look at Fergie, Paisley, Shankly, the different ones who have come through over the years, how they've how they've always progressed those teams, and how they've moved those teams forward over the lifespan of them being manager. And I think the exciting thing is that we have already seen that Klopp and the recruitment team that Liverpool have has done incredibly well to bring in the players that we have currently. And so the next 4 years will be, how do we progress this team? How do we keep winning trophies when players move on in age? You think of Hendo, and already we've seen the second half of this season, he is not starting as many games. And there's a lot more rotation happening, and that's only going to increase. We've seen James Milner move from someone who was kind of probably one of the first names on the team sheet when Klopp arrived, to now being someone who's used to see out the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes of a game. By the way, how good was he yesterday? Played really, really well. A lot of people were kind of questioning, bringing Milner on, taking Keita off, but I think James Milner done brilliantly yesterday. That's just an aside. So it's just all those kind of things that Klopp brings to Liverpool Football Club, and I'm really excited to see what the next, iteration and how he progresses the club forward, and also the likes of Pep Linders and the different coaching staff that we have on board. They've all committed to stay as well, and how they develop through. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that progression, as much as also seeing the on field, the team, the players. I'm really looking forward to seeing how, does Pep step up and do more interviews? Does he take more of a leading role in some of the, in the Carabao Cup? Because we've seen that before, where he's done, the interviews for those things and seems to take the lead. So it'll be interesting to see, what is Klopp's progression with how this works forward. Is it all going to be him, or is he also bringing the coaching staff through with him as well?
Right. Yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to see how that develops, right? And with the way things are now, so Jurgen has the highest winning percentage of any manager at Liverpool, other than one guy who coached one season in 1908, 1909. And so how Jurgen works with the coaching staff, the recruitment team, the players, to sort of keep that going, and then sort of cement that legacy and add to the trophy haul, he very easily could be the greatest manager for Liverpool.
Yes.
A club with a long list of very, very great managers.
Exactly.
Yeah. So before we go on to our next topic, Steve P put a question in the chat about the penalties yesterday. So did you have a favorite penalty, Lubo?
The funny thing is, I'm not sure that they were great. Like the caribou, the caribou, how was I call it, the caribou Cup. I thought they were, the League Cup had better penalties in terms of the placement, in terms of the drama, in terms of the power. Yesterday's penalties, they were fine, but first we didn't have as many.
Right.
I didn't actually think that there were as many pure quality penalties. I thought I thought Diogo was probably the best of the bunch in terms of just placement and power, and obviously the fact that Costas kind of coolly scored the last penalty, and James Milner's reaction to it, which was on the LFC Twitter timeline. I thought that was as brilliant, but I didn't necessarily think actually that yes, in terms of just the quality and the drama of the, I mean, okay, there was drama, but just the overall quality of the penalties, I didn't think. I actually thought the League Cup final was much better for that. But in terms of which penalty, it just has to be the last one from Costas, because Sadio had just missed, and you're all deflated, and you're like, and then Ali makes that great save on Mount, I think it was, and you're like, okay, here's your second chance, don't miss it now. And the fact that Costa, that was the last person I would have expected. I mean, obviously he was on the field and he had to take a penalty eventually, But I was like, oh, it's Costas. He's taking it, and the fact that he slotted it so calmly in the corner, went the other way, and it was just I was ready. So I was just so relieved. Plus, literally about 3 minutes later, I was in a car going to the airport. So there was also the relief of like, thank God I can actually now go and catch my flight. But I would say in terms of just pure quality, it was Diogo's. But in terms of just what it meant, I would say Costas.
Yeah, I think Costas might have been the one for me. It's more of the mental side that had to be, for him, right? Like, here's a guy who didn't get subbed on until what, the
80th.
110th minute,
Oh, 100th minute,
and
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
at 110 is when he came on, and it's just like you're just sort of thrown in right at the end because Andy Robertson's got a cramp, and to go from that, and then 15 minutes later, you have to take the clinching penalty. So just like the mental side of the game there, to be like standing strong, taking your penalty, and converting. I think that's the one for me.
I would say for me, and I think like you guys are maybe being a wee bit harsh here because I do think we did take good penalties. I think the romanticism of the League Cup and the way that Big Queeve scored the winner kind of clouds our judgment. But I actually think Thiago's penalty yesterday was an incredible penalty. If I remember correctly, that he put it inside, just inside the post, and it spun the whole way around the net. And he took that just after Aspilicueta had missed his. So I think, as you said, Matt, about like the mental aspect of taking a penalty, in the same way that Costas took one straight after Mount had missed, and he knew that he was winning. I also think for Thiago to take that second penalty after Aspilicueta had just missed, that takes a lot of mental strength as well. So I really enjoyed Thiago's penalty, and I really enjoyed Trent's reaction to his penalty. Coolest man in the stadium, walking away as if, yeah, I just did that. That was no problem. Everyone has said this stuff about me all season, and I kind of looked at it as if he was nearly about to break out into a smile, but he just kept it. He just held it. He just pure steel face. I'm not going to smile. I'm just walking back. We've done this kind of thing. So yeah, for me, it was Thiago's penalty and then Trent's reaction.
Right. I like Bobby's reaction to his as well because he's got that like
Yes.
slow build up, puts it in, and then just turns around and like sprints back, and he's all excited.
Yes.
Like I thought that
Yeah.
was excellent reaction on his part. So before we move to looking ahead to the next three games, is there anything either of you would like to highlight from the recent run in the Premier League or the semi-final of the Champions League? Lubo?
Last comment on the penalties. It was really interesting
Yes.
that Klopp called out the Euro 11 guys again, and that he spoke in the after the game about how much they helped and how much they had worked with the team to prepare them for penalties, and maybe there's still an element of luck, right? In all these penalties, sometimes you do the best you can and the goalkeeper guesses right, or
Yeah, of
2
course.
inches off and it hits off the of the post or of the bar. So there's the element of luck, but the fact that Klopp spoke about the Euro 11 guys and how much work they've done, and you could say whether it was 10% or 50% or however however much they helped, you could say that they helped with the two titles of the two trophies that we already have. And that's huge, and that speaks again to the earlier point. Klopp as a manager, it's not just been how much he has transformed the club as a coach, but also the fact that how much he has brought that people from all over the place, different types of expertise, just being understanding that he can't coach everything, and being open to bringing other people, whether it's the Euro 11 guys or the throwing coach, or I believe 1 year he actually even had a professional surfer come in at one of the training camps. I think he was in Austria, and just training the players how to just relax and keep their breath on the water, just as a way to help them calm in really stressful situations. So that's such a huge thing to know that Klopp, he can be obviously an alpha personality, but at the same time he's open and saying, I don't know everything. So if there's any efficiency, whether it's 1% or 5% that they can bring to help us win, I will do that. And also the fact that he's supported by the club. I mean, he wants a new coach and he gets the money for a new coach, and I think that is a great, and it's just portends really well for the next few years at the club, and hopefully it goes beyond 2026. But we'll see when we get there. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting that Klopp called him out again, just because it played a role in both finals, and who knows, he may still play a role in the final in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Paul, any other thoughts?
I think ultimately we've rotated really well. We've done really good to see out and get the results, get the wins where we needed to get those wins, and I think the biggest disappointment obviously is the draw against Spurs, and it was kind of one of those games that was just absolutely just dominated. But unfortunately, I think it was just one of those games where we just needed slightly better finishing in front of goal, and I think ultimately, when you take off Salah, or when Salah's not on a hot streak, or when Mane's just not having one, I thought Diaz played incredibly well in that game, but he's probably not just a finished article yet when it comes in terms of getting goals. I think that's probably just my one kind of thought. And I think NFI highlighted it there in one of the questions that he asked, about Diaz finding the shooting boots. I think it's a bit harsh to say that, he doesn't have his shooting boots, but I think it's also the fact that, probably finishing maybe just isn't the strongest part of his game. And he brings that chaos and that directness in terms of his football, and he's settled and he's pressed and he's done so much good stuff in terms of the team. I think just what we've missed probably in some of these games is just that clinical nature of, we're 1-0 up, and if we can get the second goal just to close it off, that would be really cool. I think it was the Newcastle game. It was the early goal from Naby, and then we had loads of chances, but again, just didn't find the back of the net. And it's not necessarily a complaint. It's more just the next progression would just be getting Diaz probably scoring a few more goals, or Jota just getting back on form. I just think we just kind of we've ground out results, and we've dominated games, and we've bossed games. There's not a problem with that. And when even that Spurs game, like aside from that one, that Son goal, you were like, they didn't really have a whole lot. They didn't have much that was causing us an issue. We just didn't quite get, just didn't get the final shot on target, or the final shot off, but teams come to sit in, and when they go for that, that low block, that six behind the ball, and three more sitting in front of them, it is incredibly hard just to break down, and that's where a player like Diaz brings chaos, but it's just finding that final thing. But I'm in no way being critical of him. I think he's awesome. I think what we've done to win those games has been brilliant. To see out Villarreal, and even to come back at Villarreal, like we talk about mentality monsters and mentality giants and yesterday's result, but to go over to Villarreal and to concede 2 in the first half, and at half time it'd be 2-2 in the tie, and come out in the second half, we are by far the better team, and everyone knows that. But to come out in the second half and do that second half performance and score 3 goals, not just win the tie, win the game overall after being 2-0 down in the Champions League semi-final. Like, that's a massive thing. You don't necessarily get a lot of teams doing that, especially when you're away, you're at that team stadium. The atmosphere is intense. We used the atmosphere of Anfield to beat Barcelona 4-0. But then we go to Villarreal and we go 2-0 down in their patch and come back and beat them 3-2 in the game to win 5-2 overall on aggregate. It shows how great a team we have mentally. And as you said, Lubo, it's those 1%. Sometimes it's like even 0.1, 0.2% that different people bring to our team that Klopp is so happy to bring in and use. The way some people in leadership are very much, this is how I do it, this is my way of doing it, I'm going to be the guy who takes all the credit for this. You find with Klopp, it's a different type of humility with him, isn't it? It's very much, I have these people, I have a throw-in expert who we've identified, I have, neuro guys who'll come in and look at this and give us these 0.1% improvements. And if it's any type of improvement, he just looks at it and goes, that's brilliant, that's what we need, bang, let's use that. He's not afraid. And I think that's one of the big things that sets him apart. He's not afraid to use other people in his management team to bring out and to get more from our players. And I think that's what's been incredible to see over these last number of months.
Yeah. And the thing about the Spurs game is, I don't know how many people, I was actually looking at that. It's strange because this was 3 games in a row. So Villarreal, Spurs, and then Aston Villa, where Liverpool allowed the first goal, and that actually had not the last time Liverpool had allowed the first goal in the game was at home to Shrewsbury at like January 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So Liverpool had gone, what is it, over February, March, April, May, almost 4 months without allowing the first goal. And sometimes you get footballed, right? And unfortunately, these things happen. But the fact that 3 games in a row they allowed the first goal, and in 2 of those games, including that huge Champions League game where going into the second half everything was in the balance, Villa as well, they were able to respond really quickly and then come back and win. The fact that in 2 of those 3 games they were able to come back despite allowing the first goal really early in what is like the 3rd, 4th minute, both games. I think that is a huge sign of just their resilience and mentality and ability to fight back. Spurs was just, I honestly felt if Spurs had scored in the 5th minute again, we'd have had enough time to tie it or to draw. And it's unfortunate because there were moments where we had opportunities and some of the tackles were flying in. I mean, unbelievable. Ben Davies, I mean, come on. He looked like a freaking Jedi flying left and right. What the hell? He's like, he's not supposed to be able to do that. So there was an element of luck. There was also, that's how Diaz scored his goal off a deflection, right? But it's unfortunate, but often when you allow the first goal, you're going to drop points. The fact in 2 of those 3 games, Liverpool were able to come back and win is huge. It's now the sort of the gut punch is that with City dropping points today, and maybe we'll get to that as the last segment, kind of what the next couple of weeks would look like. It would have really helped to get a win against Spurs right now. I would just kill for 1 extra goal. Oh my God, it would make the world of difference. But
that's a good place to transition to looking ahead to the final 3 games. So as it stands, there are 2 more games in the Premier League: Southampton away, Wolves at home. And today, Manchester City got a draw with West Ham, so they are ahead by 4, and Liverpool have a game in hand. So the 538 model has Liverpool with a 14% chance to win the league. And then the other game we have is the Champions League final in Paris against Real Madrid. So to get us started for the questions is, what are you guys expecting against Southampton, and like how much rotation? Because it's 2 days rest from Saturday to Tuesday. So Paul, you want to get us started?
Yeah, it's funny. I've seen a lot of different opinions and ideas around this that we will rotate heavily. Like I actually think I seen someone say yesterday that Allison should get a rest and just start queeving in nets, which Jurgen could well do. But I kind of think I don't think there necessarily will be a whole lot of rotation. I think ultimately we still like to keep minutes and legs and keep players in a moment of playing football. So to heavily, because we've got, it's not until Sunday then that we play again, and then it's a week after that before we play the final. So I don't necessarily see that there will be a huge amount of rotation. Obviously, the likes of I don't expect Robbo to play. Virgil
Yeah,
probably won't play. So and then I don't imagine Salah will play. But some of the rest of them, I don't. Bobby, okay, Bobby might get a bit of a run out, and Milner might get more. But like again, a lot of these boys, 120 minutes yesterday. Naby came off quite early, so that would nearly indicate to me that there is the possibility that Naby will play on Tuesday night, because he didn't. Thiago played the 120. So you'd assume then that Naby may play on Tuesday night, and we might see Curtis, because he's had a couple of runouts recently. So there will be rotation, obviously, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be wholesale. I don't think you're going to see a completely new back four and Origi and Taki starting on Tuesday night. I don't think you're going to have as much as that. But we will see some rotation, and if we can get a decent scoreline, then yes, probably more subs coming on.
Yeah, I think that you're right. Like the guys that came off yesterday, like Diaz and Naby, I would expect them to start. Or the guys that only played part of the game, like Bobby and Jota, like I would expect them to probably start. And you might see Curtis Jones as well. But I think that we'll probably see still like Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson will probably start, but then come off at halftime or at 60, something like that. Just because we're down to like 4 or 5 guys with Fabinho being injured. So that's sort of what I'm expecting in terms of rotation. The draw that City had against West Ham sort of makes it easier to rotate because you don't necessarily have to be playing to overturn the goal difference. So you don't need that huge result. You just need to win and then sort of hope results go your way elsewhere. Lubo, any thoughts on the upcoming games?
Yeah, I agree with the point you made today. So actually, I didn't even realize the Man City missed the penalty. So as much as West Ham sort of blew a 2-goal lead at the end, it could have actually been a lot worse. I had no idea that actually Mahrez could have scored, and then I checked the highlights later, and I'm like, he missed the penalty. Because had he scored, that base effectively would be over, right? And then they're like, okay, there's nothing to play. So from that perspective, we still have a chance. Obviously, as you mentioned, Matt, the goal difference doesn't matter anymore. So you just want to go to Southampton and try to win, which does, I think, make the choice. I don't know if it makes it easier, but I think it then would eliminate one question or one consideration out of Klopp's mind. But I think what Paul was saying is, I agree. We're going to see changes, and not necessarily changes because Klopp just wants to bring in all the academy kids. They will still be very experienced players. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Joel and Ibu start again. They finished the game, and Joel played 30. Costas, who is a very capable deputy, he could start. We still have attacking options. So just because a team it was likely to be rotated, it still will be a very experienced and very strong team. And then from Klopp's perspective, he just wants to have a team that could hopefully eke out a 1-goal win or a 2-goal win, whatever it is, so the final game next Sunday still matters, right? Rather than saying, okay, I need to go hell for leather and start all of my best players because we need to win 9-0 or something crazy like that. So I mean, there will be some rotation. There's enough time after Tuesday until Sunday's game. Obviously, Klopp will be very careful with Fabinho, with Mo, with Virgil. If they have any sort of concerns coming out of the game yesterday, he will want to rest them just to make sure that they're available for the Champions League. So there will be a rotation, but still, Saints are mathematically safe now with the Leeds result today and the Burnley result. So they have really they could lose their last 2 games and will be fine in the league. So that aspect from them is gone. They'll probably want to play well, but one of those teams that are already on the beach, and if they go down a goal or two, you don't expect them to put a lot of effort to try to come back. So hopefully, again, I'm expecting somewhat rotated team, but still very strong. Hopefully, we can get the first goal. Hopefully, we can get the second goal, and then just cruise to a win, and then just go into the game at next Sunday with a lot of just hope to win against Wolves, and then just see if Coutinho can assist Ingsy for a last minute goal to do the anti Aguero. And I have to say if it happened that Man City dropped points on Sunday, and I have to be positive it'll happen. The fact that it would be 10 years after that Aguero moment, a week after they revealed an Aguero statue that doesn't look like anything like Aguero, just the poetic justice and just the irony of it would be so beautiful. I may have to start tweeting afterwards, just myself, my ban and my self-imposed silence on Twitter. I may have to start tweeting again, just because I think it'll be just too beautiful.
Right. The thing to go along with that is it's like Steven Gerrard can win the title for Liverpool.
And not just
It
Gerrard.
would go some way. Well, exactly, but it would also go some ways to exercising that ghost that he has in his head about the game against Chelsea, and the slip if he could actually, because that he has that on himself that happened. And this could be kind of retribution or whatever way you want to term that. So I think the thing about Southampton too is you don't want to go there, right, and drop points, go to the last day of the season and City drop points and go to yourself, do you know what? I really wish that we had made more of an effort in the Southampton game. So I think that's why we will approach this game. It won't be a let's rest everyone for the Champions League final approach. It will still be that, listen, boys, we still have, it's a 14% chance, it's an outside chance, but we still can win the Premier League. And if that's the case, I just feel that Klopp's approach to these games will always be, if there's a chance of winning it, we will keep playing. And so that's the approach that we will take. And can Stevie Gerrard and Aston Villa do it in the last day? Who knows? But I'm pretty certain that he will give it a damn good try. And if it means going 9 at the back and defending and grinding out a 0-0, that'll be mad.
And Phil Coutinho, he has scored some big goals against Man City at Liverpool, including in that 13-14 season. Remember that game, that crazy game at Anfield where he scored the winning goal in the 3-2, and we thought this was it. And so there would be just so many lines. There would be so many beautiful stories that could be written if it happened. Just imagine a last minute, like I said, Phil Coutinho to Danny Ings pass through ball that leaves Diaz, the best center back in the world, stranded and makes Liverpool a champion. It just the beauty of it. I can dream.
We can all dream.
Coutinho also had the goal in the League Cup final in Klopp year 1, so he definitely has a thing for scoring the big goals against City.
That is true.
So,
he hasn't done much. He hasn't done much in the last 8 games, though, is the unfortunate thing. But big game player. Let's see if we can bring it out.
Always a good time to make make that sort of change, though. Looking ahead to the other competition, do you guys think that Liverpool and Mohamed Salah will get their revenge against Real Madrid? Paul, definitely. You want to get us started on that one? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that Real Madrid team that we lost to was not their 3rd year in a row of winning it, and that was like Real Madrid pinnacle top of their game. I honestly don't think that Real Madrid team is anywhere near as close, or this Real Madrid team is anywhere near as close to being as good as that one. And the flip side, that was us on the start of our journey. And I really think that we are a team that's far more progressed now, obviously, than what that team was then. We went on and won the Champions League the season after that, but I totally think that that when it comes down to it, yeah, everyone talks about Benzema and how well he played against Man City, and if you can keep him in the game, if Real Madrid can keep in the game and get balls to him, he'll score goals. I've no doubt about that, but I also think that we could. Real Madrid, I don't see sitting back. I don't see them hunkering in. I don't see them doing what Chelsea did yesterday. They will still want to play, and I think across Europe they will probably still be seen as the favourites. And a lot of people talk about European heritage and the fact that they're a Champions League European heritage team, so they can't come and just sit in and defend in Paris for 90 minutes. And so that always plays into our hands. That plays into what Liverpool need. And so I honestly think that for us, number 7 is coming back to Liverpool.
It's on its way. Yeah, I think that when you look at the two teams now and then, back in the 2018 final, that Liverpool team was razor thin. Like there was just nobody on the bench. We had 11 guys, right? And so now, like you can turn around and actually like put in Diogo Jota, right? Somebody who's like accomplished and really good. Like if there's an injury, so in that way, like Liverpool's come a long way. And if you look at the current version of this Real Madrid team, it's like very similar in terms of their midfield components, but those guys are now in their mid 30s. And so in that final in 2018, like those guys were just sort of at their peak, and now they're like post peak. And I don't know that they will be able to control things in the same way.
Exactly.
So Lubo, your thoughts on the Champions League final?
It will be difficult. Let me say this. I do think Liverpool are the favorites, especially if we can get Fabinho back, and especially if Mo and Virgil are fine for the final, as in nothing serious happened to them yesterday. If we have the full squad available, we're the favorites. I also think that if you look at how Real Madrid were able to, I mean, they just got lucky in there against PSG, against Chelsea, against Man City, especially. They just got lucky. They've had a super hot Vinicius. They've had a super hot Benzema, and so you're hoping that maybe they cool off a little bit. You're hoping that our defense would do a much better job against them. And honestly, I think our intensity, just the same way. I mean, just watching that first Man City game at the Etihad, the intensity that they played with, the attack that they played with, and they just made some stupid mistakes that allowed Real Madrid to stay in the game. But that is the type of intensity that Liverpool could, at full squad, that everybody fit and available. That is the intensity that they could bring to the final. And I think if we do that, and honestly, that was the intensity that Liverpool brought with a paper thin squad in Kiev. The first 30 minutes until Mo Salah went off, Liverpool were just unbelievable. I mean, Real Madrid couldn't even get out of their half. That's how crazy it was. So I just feel if we have everyone available, we can play with the intensity, and we can just get lucky with a couple of shots. I mean, Mo surely is due a goal. Luis Diaz, I saw someone in the chat saying, when can Luis Diaz start scoring his chances? and he scored some goals. I'm not gonna take that away from him, but there are Luis, you gotta do better. And then I catch myself like, those are big chances, but they're not like 90% chances. Those are still difficult chances, right? But that's exactly what we'll need. We'll have moments, and if Luis and Mo and Sadio, if they can put those chances away, especially in the first 20, 30 minutes, when I know Liverpool will come out really intense, real high pressure, real high aggression. If we can take advantage of the chances that we'll create, we should win. We should win.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good place to come to a close. So, Paul, do you have any final thoughts or plugs?
No, I think whatever happens, this has been an incredibly great season. I think had we have started this positivity podcast back last summer, uh, we would probably have we would probably have been on our own with a lot of our viewpoints. But I think that ultimately this season has just been incredible. A lot of people wrote us off, and to be in the reckoning for 4 trophies on the last day of the season shows that this team is one of the best teams that has been in Premier League history. The icing on the cake would be to miraculously win the Premier League and then go on and lift the Champions League. But whatever way it happens, we've already won 2 domestic cups, and the team is just phenomenal. So hopefully when we come to do the last positivity podcast of the season, we will be sitting in a victorious place, celebrating 4 titles.
Lubo, final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts. I do hope that win at Southampton on Tuesday. So going into that final game on Sunday, we have a chance. We know that we still have something to play for, and I know that ironically it was also against Wolves. I think 3 years ago that we had to win and hope that Man City drop points so we can win the title. And it didn't happen, and now it's again against Wolves. Oh, you were there?
I was there for that one. You're there for this one. Let's see who has the better
Yeah,
luck.
and Steve P was there for that one, and he's going to be there for this one, sitting next to me. And I think I'm going to be the lucky charm this time around. Beat Southampton.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, beat Southampton, and I just can't even begin to imagine if it happened. Just imagine seeing the unlikely 14% coming through, and just seeing Liverpool win the Premier League title in front of you on at Anfield. I don't think there are words to describe that. And then you go on a week later and you win the quadruple, which I know I've been saying this for the whole season, and half of it started as a tongue in cheek, but then as we kept going, I kept believing, and it's not a promise, it's not a guarantee, it's a hope. But man, it would be beautiful if it happened.
Well, let's hope, Lubo, that you are the lucky charm.
Yep.
So we have 2 trophies in, 2 trophies to go. So thank you for listening to this edition of the Positivity Podcast. Until we talk to you again, up the Positivity Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.